wanted to kind of mention to our audience who's tuning in for the first time to the Makana podcast is that this very much is a reflection of our e-magazine, Makana 2.0. And the premise is very much about sharing ideas from our network to our network in the areas of HR, PA, technology, business leadership, with the focus on Japan and Asia. And so with that, let's kick off. Vinny, you and I, we've known each other for some time now and have had a chance to partner together. And but yeah, for the audience who might not know you as well, do you want to give us a quick introduction?
Sure, I'll give us a 2-minute introduction. Vinny, been with Adobe for almost 3 years now. My scope is I lead the search for our APJ region, both from a manager perspective as well as an exec search perspective, where Yan Sen, you and I had a great opportunity to partner together across, some of the previous executive roles in Japan. One of the biggest areas that we've been focusing on as well is data insights. I'm a big nerd around insights, so happy to share a bit more in our chat. Outside of work, I love gardening, I love my dog, and play a bit of golf and absolutely suck at it. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
You and me both. We need to work on our game. And I just noticed this now, but we have similar haircuts. So at least we have a couple of things in common.
Maybe that's what's making our game bad. We need to shave our hair off or something.
Okay. Winner gets to keep their hair.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, next time I'm in Australia, next time you're in Japan, we'll hit the course.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. And so first thing, I want to ask is about Adobe. Obviously, the business has transformed over the years. It's a very well-recognized company but for those that are not up to date, can you share with us a little bit of the transformation that's been happening?
Yeah, sure. The transformation, it's almost an ongoing journey for Adobe, right? Depending on which era you start getting familiar yourself with the brand. We went from, a lot of people still know us as PDF, Photoshop company, to right now we focus a lot on AI as well as your back-end website e-commerce side of products. So the product transformation has been massive, but what's underpinning that, it's also a high level of transformation of the vision of Adobe, from empowering creators to empowering everyone to be a creator, and you get to see that examples come to life through our recent product launch, like Adobe Express, all the way to our AI generated images. It makes creative idiots like myself look somewhat competent and somewhat can do cool stuff with artwork. The other bits of transformation, it's also from a people perspective. So we recently relaunched our value of Adobe, and one of the key themes, it's about being genuine, and that is what we anchor ourselves around from a culture and people's perspective, is that at the end of the day, we are genuine people. That means we look out for each other at work, outside of work, and it leads to who we are today, a very diverse team across the APJ region.
Yeah, I think that one thing that really stands out about the company is how it embraces change and how it enables creators, right? It's super powerful, and I think that's what's allowed the company to be very, very successful. And you talked about kind of the culture piece. One thing that really stood out to me working with you and others at Adobe is how human-centric it is because, even during the pandemic when there was a lot of downsizing within the tech sector in recruitment teams, I do recall you moving a lot of the TA members to do HR work. So yeah, I think that's kind of been amazing for the company and the employer brand.
No, thank you. It's an interesting one, especially with AI nowadays.
Mhm.
Like the amount of tools that can help enable us to do our jobs. I think the question comes down to what is the transformation in TA? What is the value add for us as a function using the tools available given to us? And one of the key things for me is, how do we continue to be advisors to your clients and to your business, right? And this is not only just in TA, wherever you work. How do you show up as subject matter experts? How do you drive recommendations and such? Yeah, it's been one of the key focuses as part of this transformation from the digital tool or people perspective for us.
Yeah, I'm interested to learn more. So, from your perspective, how has talent acquisition changed as a function at Adobe? And if you can, what are some of the tools and technologies that you're implementing to help you be more effective as a TA
Yeah,
professional?
yeah, for sure, for sure. How has it transformed? God, it, honestly, in so many different ways, right? I think if I were to categorize them, one, there's definitely a higher focus on partnership, and that is with your direct hiring manager, that is with your key stakeholder, like your HR business partner, or even within the TA function, right? That level of partnership, it's something I've seen us continue to evolve as a function using the likes of data, insights, and a lot of skills around storytelling. This kind of links back to what I shared earlier around, hey, how do we continue to find our value add? And I guess one, hopefully not too soon, key human component that AI hasn't taken away from us yet, it's that level of interaction, that level of genuineness and connection that happen between the teams. So yeah, that's probably the biggest one that really stood out to myself. Um, from a tools perspective, I'm a very, very simple man. I tap into a lot of the tools that's already accessible to us. Um, depending on the scope of work we're talking about, simply using Google News could be extremely beneficial finding you industry insights or trends, or even finding share price of some of your competitors, all the way to, I guess from more recruitment level, right? So tools within your own ATS as well, the amount of data information that is available to you. It's massive, especially in an industry like Japan, where finding talent is extremely tough. If you have someone who's previously engaged with you and you have that privilege to have those data points, it benefits recruitment tremendously. So I don't know if that answer your question. And so
Yeah, it kind of, I see actually a lot of parallels, between how Tia has transformed at Adobe with what, we're trying to do at Makana Partners, because I think, generally speaking, in Japan recruitment world, especially for kind of contingent searches, our clients come to us and, they have a job description that might or might not be updated. They might have or might not have aligned with the different stakeholders within the organization. And then they just send it to us and they say, hey, you have any candidates? And yes, we could start sourcing and we could start introducing candidates, but we're finding that that's actually not that much value add, right? That becomes very operational, very reactive. And so what we're trying to do when we're shifting, especially to kind of a retained search or a talent acquisition advisory service offering, is to go back to what you're saying, right? Let's take a step back. Let's look at the market. First of all, Japan is an aging demographic. So, we're losing about 1 million people every single year. What does that mean? Search is going to be more difficult. Okay. If we're looking for bilingual talent, that's only 10% of the population. If we're looking at sales marketing, HR, whatever the function might be, that's also a sliver of the workforce. So, looking at that information, we really need to kind of share that with the hiring managers and stakeholders and paint the picture of, okay, you cannot do recruitment like you were doing recruitment 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's a completely new ball game. And with that understanding in place, then we could talk about, okay, how do we establish the branding, the employer branding? What is the go-to market strategy? Can we coach the interviewers? Do they understand what the job market is? Do they understand how fast their competitors are moving? Because what we typically find is when they first start searching, everybody is very relaxed and, okay, let's give it a try. And 1 to 2 months down the line, the role is still open, no candidates, and then they start changing the strategy and panicking, and that's just a little bit too late, right?
Yeah, it's like a roller coaster ride, right? Where before you get on a roller coaster, or depends on if you like it or not. I don't like it. I hate height, but I assume for people who like it, it's a lot like, hey, before you get on, it's like the excitement on, oh, this is great. And then you go through a wave of emotions, anywhere from, excitement, potentially disappointment if the candidate didn't hit the brief, a level of confusion, some healthy tensions as well with the client, and before you get to close the deal. The other thing that I will say, just to add on to your point, Jensen, is how do we practice a bit more agile framework, right? So agile is a methodology that's widely adopted in product software development, but it's a very similar concept that we can use in TA, from a proof of concept to pilot group to your final product. What is your proof of concept of brief? What is your pilot group? That could be potentially a talent map of names, of initial profiles to share to sense check, and you come up with a final product. And that to me also talks to partnership, because you bring your client and hiring manager on the journey along with you through the way. So yeah, that's very relatable to what we do.
Yeah. Well, what's really interesting is there's certain positions that are easier to fill than others, right? And so we could do the exercise of gathering market intelligence through anywhere from just a regular Google search to asking ChatGPT or using LinkedIn for data. And we could kind of tell, okay, this is going to be a very, very tough search. We might or might not find anybody, versus, okay, this is a pretty easy search. I think we're going to be able to kind of secure somebody within the next 1 to 2 months. So going through that agile process you just talked about, I think it really depends on the role as well as the power of the company, right? The employer brand of the company.
Yeah, it's very multi-faceted, right? Like in one of the conferences I attended to last year, they spoke about the amount of different hats TA have to wear
Yeah.
nowadays, right? So, it's not only from an execution perspective, but also how do you connect the dots of employer branding, potentially remuneration, again, data, insights, so that in every experience you deliver, there's a framework. It's somewhat consistent on what your client can expect from you and for you to tell a holistic story. I for me, a lot of the roles I tend to deal with, it's a longer cycle of recruitment, given the seniority, given the internal stakeholders, feedback, and such. So having that holistic story painted has been helpful and beneficial to set me up for success through the whole recruitment process.
Yeah, managing stakeholder expectation is another aspect of our role, right? Yeah, if they have very, very high expectations, it's very unrealistic that we're going to be able to find somebody. And so we got to manage that well. What are some of the interesting talent acquisition initiatives that you've initiated at Adobe and at your past companies? Because
Mhm.
I've kind of noticed at Woolworths, for example, you had like a 1 day recruitment campaign. I thought that was kind of interesting and novel that I don't see too often. Is that something that you could kind of share and talk about?
Yeah, I think this is where my passion comes in around, being the hopefully on trend with where talent acquisition is headed to in the future, right? So the different initiatives are probably good examples on how I had the humble opportunity to really just to work with different stakeholders, functions to bring initiatives to life. I'll give you an example from one day you mentioned it's a campaign we run back in Woolworths Group. Um, that is a campaign essentially focused on revamping our brand, given the talent and brand perception challenges we were facing in the past, as well as uh, building an active talent community for us as a business. Very much so like marketing, recruitment, we speak a lot about the 7 touch points of candidates. If they are able to get 7 touch points with yourself or your brand, chances are they'll most likely join or accept a role that you were to offer them. And that's exactly one of the key purpose of the campaign is to continue to push our brand out there, which, as part of that group, we had talent marketing, we had the business side, we have the corporate marketing team, talent acquisition. God, I'll probably miss a few, but it was an amazing campaign come to life around what talent acquisition could look like when you partner end to end with the whole ecosystem around you. Similar initiative happened in Adobe as well, right? So anywhere from a product launch perspective, that's more talent acquisition and tool focus, all the way to when we create events, for example, that's very TA focused, but requires a village to bring it to life. Yeah, if I reflect on it, one of our recent events, we engage people pretty much everywhere across the business. Sales, marketing, communication, talent acquisition, the coordination, office team, like you name it, they're probably part of the crew that help successfully launch these events. And what that has resulted in is that, again, just higher level of brand awareness and a proactive source of talent pool that you'll be able to access to as a TA professional, essentially.
Super interesting how you mentioned the 7 points of engagement to kind of get them to know Adobe, because I'm a psych major, and I have that background, and I do remember my undergrad days where the professor said that on average, the 7th or 8th person that you date, you end up marrying. And so the psychology around that is, obviously the first, second, and third person that you're dating, you're still kind of testing the market a little bit and seeing what that's like. But after the 7th or 8th, we're pretty comfortable that we've got a good sampling of the market. And if you don't kind of marry that person, you're going to be missing out. So I think there's some parallels there in terms of the number of interactions.
That is super cool. I actually I graduated from psychology myself as well, and my professor is obviously not as cool as yours. She never shared that with me as part of the curriculum, but that's super cool information.
But now that I think about it, it kind of holds true for me. Like personally, I think it's around the 7th or 8th person. Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool. That's super cool.
I think we touched a little bit about this earlier, but maybe we could kind of do a little bit of a deeper dive. How do you see kind of talent acquisition professionals working with AI, like hand in hand? Because from my perspective, I think there's a lot of people that are doomsayers and saying, oh yeah, talent acquisition is going to be completely automated. It's going to be completely AI driven. And I'm like, yes, that will happen when humans prefer to talk to robots and AI instead of other humans. What is your perspective on that?
Yeah, I'm laughing because I don't know if you've seen this video online before, but it's this machine, right, making bubble tea. It's a bubble tea shop, and there's no staff. It just you pay with your card, and the machine makes a bubble tea for you. And the video just shows how different the experience is to a human staff that actually help you deliver your orders. And I'll share that video maybe offline as well. But I think that's in a funny way, it's a reflection and metaphor on us as TA professionals and the current AI capability at the moment. I think one thing, that is definitely true as part of all these statements is that it's a massive change to how we work, how we operate, to how we deal with the market. It's like when LinkedIn first got adopted by everyone, right? This is that moment where a new tool comes out, and we're part of it, where we're at the very forefront of it as well. And having the opportunity to be part of this journey is, again, can be scary, but as operators and professionals, I think we have to see the excitement and the positive side on this, right? There's so many applications we can use AI to do, anywhere from your efficiency perspective. So it could be, I'll do a quick plug on Adobe PDF. There's new AI that can summarize people's PDF, which could be in the form of a CV for you, or you can ask questions and the AI will respond to you based on your questions. Data analytics if you're looking for someone in your competitors, simply ask ChatGPT, give me a list of 10 names that's our competitors in that area. Make that part of your search, right? All the way to understanding the role, the scope you're recruiting. Even better, you can ask ChatGPT around, hey, if you were to interview this role, what are some questions you would ask this person? And it gives you a list of questions on roles you may not be familiar with. So many great implications. Now, the scary part is if this is not utilized well, right? I don't know if you've seen, but online on all the fake AI interviews
Mm,
virtually. Like I could be talking to an AI version of you, Jensen, right now, and I wouldn't be able to tell, right? And that's what's crazy about this technology, or not this technology, but just the innovation that's happening behind AI is that the potential of it is enormous, and where we have very much the privileged opportunity to be at is be at the forefront of it.
mm.
So I'll say definitely embrace it, learn it, and find out ways that can make your day, your job a bit better using AI.
Yeah, very well put. I think there is a subset of us who are afraid of AI and the tools. And I know we have some European stakeholders or partners that are GDPR compliant. They say, oh, yeah, it's a little bit sensitive using AI. But for me, it's kind of scary because, okay, if I don't utilize some of these tools, my competitors do and are 2x or 3x in terms of productivity, how is my business going to be able to kind of compete with that, right? It's going to be very, very difficult. So we kind of need to embrace it and utilize it, or else we might just fall behind against the competition. Um,
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think it's definitely a balance of that, right? Like it's kind of like when Tesla first got invented, everyone's like, oh my God, it's like such a crazy pure EV car. And nowadays you got EV everywhere, right? Anywhere from your BYD to your more traditional manufacturing that's producing it. I think with time, organically, people will find their ways to adapt to the tool.
mm,
But also at the same time, I think one thing that's always good for us as professionals is just to stay curious constantly. It doesn't have to be AI, it can be anything. But AI, as an example, staying curious, exploring it. There's no playbook at the moment for a lot of businesses around how to
mm.
utilize this tool, right? So the sooner we play with it, practice it, the sooner we can be at the forefront of the
Mm.
trend, and to really help ourselves do our jobs even better.
Yeah, and one of the positive things is it's really cheap or
Yeah,
virtually free, right? So yeah, I don't know if you heard the news with DeepSeek. It's all over like LinkedIn and other major media, so it's hard to miss. But DeepSeek having a model that competes with OpenAI, and they did it for a fraction of the cost, and it's an open sourced platform, right? So everybody can kind of use it, and you could kind of run on these Apple consumer servers. Like it would have been really, really scary if only one government or a handful of companies had this AI technology. But kind of like the internet, it's accessible to kind of everybody, which is very positive. Um,
yeah, it's a good example. Internet, right? I think we're at the era now where it's just as big of a big boom invention as when internet was first
Mhm.
when first invented. We got a couple of browsers we use, mostly Internet Explorer. But look at it now. We got Chrome, Firefox, Bing. I think Explorer got shut off, but there's so much variety that
Yeah.
we can use it for, and you know, it hasn't replaced many people, but it evolved what we need to do. It evolved how we can get access to information. It never replaced teachers, right? But it kind of helped them do their job. So it's a very similar scenario we're in right now for recruiters. It
Mhm.
might be anyway. Is the sooner you learn it, yeah, the sooner you'll find how it can benefit your current situation.
And what I think about is how we could kind of work with these AI tools, right? And so for me personally, I think humans can really add on top because right now AI is very good at um, finding information or providing information, but it can't ask the questions, right? So it can't ask. It can't provide you with the questions to ask. So we need to kind of think about that. How the right question to ask to solve a particular problem, and it also cannot kind of sense the world. Um, the word in Japanese, kuki yomenai. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it basically means read the air.
Mhm.
So in a Japanese corporation, you need to be able to sit in a meeting room and read the air, which is get a feeling of what other people are thinking, feeling, and what is the atmosphere of the room, so you could kind of act appropriately or communicate um, appropriately. And so AI can doesn't have the senses and can't assess the environment just yet. So that's going to be another one of our advantages. Um, and yeah, just being able to kind of have the relationships and connections that we do, because AI right now is still in digital form. It's sitting on your computer, right? If you don't access it, you can't really experience it. And so thinking from these perspectives, I think that's how we could kind of stand out and work with AI.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point you raise around the questions,
Mm,
right? In another podcast I was listening to, it mentioned how the capability for us, everyone, is shifting from knowing what is the right answer to your question to knowing what is the right question to get to your answer,
uh,
right? So there's a dynamic shift of being able to ask the right question. And prior to that is being able to identify exactly what challenge you're leaning into. And I will say that will probably be one of the, if not most important skill for any of us in the future. It's just asking the right questions.
mm. And this brings back to your original point in the very beginning of this podcast is you're talking about Adobe culture and being genuine, right? And I think that's what sets humans apart. Um, from your perspective, what does being genuine mean, and how does that impact Adobe culture?
Yeah, I in so many different ways, right? The statement that probably resonated with me the most is uh you know, be genuine may not necessarily mean being nice to each other.
Mhm.
Sometimes when you're being nice or too nice, you're actually not being genuine. In the workplace, example, if you see someone has, well, say outside of work, in a personal setting, if you see someone has a leaf stuck in their teeth, is your role going to be, hey, helping them out to go, hey, there's something in your teeth? Or do you just kind of go, hey, just going to be nice, just going to ignore it and move on? And to me, that's probably an example that separates being genuine versus being nice. And
Mm,
what that has resulted to is an extremely transparent culture in Adobe. For you to get to that point, what's also super cool is that you need a level of trust before you get to the stage of, you know, being there for each other. So organically, these two start feeding off each other. Trust, transparency, and kind of bubbles up this culture of being genuine. And that cascades anywhere from, you know, our CEO level to everyone in the business. And it's actually one of the key principles for me when I recruit for people or engage or partner with the likes of yourself is being very transparent with you and not giving up our culture for anyone who simply has the experience to do the role.
yeah, I agree with that perspective 100%. And the only word that I will just add in addition is consistency. Like for me, being genuine is being consistent in the actions that you take, right? So whether you're in a business environment or having drinks in a personal setting, just kind of having that consistency in the way you behave, because if you have that, one, it's going to make life much easier for yourself. You don't need to act differently with different people in different situations. And two, it really builds that trust, right, with people. And that's going to be comforting. And with that trust, then you're going to be able to kind of lead and influence and drive change that you need to drive within the organization. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Consistency is one of the absolute keys as well to build trust. So, yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing.
One thing that I've been doing is, continuing to try the different AI tools that are out there. And one of the tools that I was looking at a couple of weeks back is this company called 11X. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's an AI agent. So numerical 11 and then the letter X. It's an AI agent that what you can do is you could kind of give it certain information like job titles or geography, and they'll kind of go out there and make a list of prospects. And it could do the outreach automatically. It's an automated outreach. And you could kind of have conversations with people. And then it could even book in calendar meetings, booking meetings into your calendar. And so that was really, really eye-opening in terms of technology. Ultimately, I don't think it's something that we're going to implement because it costs more than to actually hire somebody. And two, I don't think it'll be very good service kind of spamming out thousands of people. And we're not going to be able to kind of service our clients or candidates that way, right? Even after we're getting like hundreds of calls in our calendar. But I'm seeing these AI agents popping up all over the place after seeing this particular demo. I think that's going to be like a game changer to a certain extent if it becomes more effective and lower in terms of the cost. Because we're seeing something similar from a candidate perspective where it's like the auto apply. feature. Yeah, that was actually very, very popular last year, right? Um,
Yeah, that's super interesting, right? I think it really just shows also we're just at the start of the journey around what this could look like for everyone. Another example, I'll do a quick plug for Adobe product.
oh yes, please.
Well, it's our Adobe Express. It helps you have a AI generated CV based on the information you're giving them, or templated CV, right? That it's just another example of how we can utilize the tool to help better the quality of life or quality of outcome overall. But again, I think what's super exciting is whatever we're seeing now, talking about now, yeah, we're at the very start of the
Mm,
journey. If I were to draw comparison back to internet days, again, if this time feels like when we have to have the landline connection into internet, and then we evolved to now Wi-Fi, 5G, and everything. I think was AI, where at that time was simply landlined so fast. So much more we can do in that space.
yeah, it's really the forefront of technology. It's interesting in Japan, though, like a lot of companies haven't even digitalized, and they've got a long ways to go. Not even Excel. Like some people are still using pen and paper to kind of track reservations and customer data, right? And so, yeah, they need to first digitalize their workflow, and then work on the AI layer thereafter. But yeah, this is definitely going to be the future. Um, Vinny, we're almost to the end of our 1 hour video podcast. Anything else that you want to discuss that we haven't really covered today?
We spoke about many things. I'm gonna sound like a bit of a broken record, right? But I'll say, the the question for us all as talent acquisition professionals is one: how do we continue to find our value add proposition in the business?
Mm,
And to me, being a data nerd and someone who's passionate about the people side, it's about how do we combining the two, asking the right questions and using the right tools going forward. So yeah, I other than that, I'm also looking forward to hear from the other podcasters around what they want to share. But no, I appreciate the time chatting with you, Yansen.
what was the term that you use or the phrase around fire?
Yeah, so you know, one of the key challenge we solve for is how do you sell fire to someone who's never seen fire before? And that's an ongoing challenge given the innovation available for us. And for you to do that, we need to continue to build our own skills, trust, and credibility so that you can help people realize how much potential our functions can be, and how much value add we have, yeah, as a community.
Absolutely. A lot of organizations still see recruiters just being able to kind of send CVs and arrange interviews, but we could just add so much more value than that, right? And we all need to be better storytellers and yeah, emphasize the value we can make to organizations. That's great. One last point that I wanted to ask. So with the new Trump administration, he's rolling back. Uh, yeah, just mentioning the word it cracks you up. He's rolling back on a lot of the DEI initiatives. how do you see that kind of playing out in the corporate world?
Mm, I think we're already seeing how it's playing out in the corporate world, right? Like you see the changes happening in Amazon, sort of changes in Meta. Personally, from a minority background, it deeply affects, I think, not just me, but a lot of us, and it challenges our value, right? And one thing it it really challenges is our core value, again, back to being genuine. How do we show up as our whole selves to work when the whole world around you it's getting so impacted from a person's decision or values? It's something I don't have answers to still. Um, but for me, it's continue to keep DEI at the center of all the decision making. For me, it's not only aligned to my personal belief, but diversity foster innovation. At the end of the day, we're all innovating as a company. So the more diverse thoughts you bring into the team, I see a lot of positive implications that hasn't been realized or spoken to when all these programs were rolled back across businesses or across from a US administration perspective. So yeah, no strong answer, no answer to that, but just more so my thoughts and comments.
Thank you very much. I know it's a very sensitive topic, so thank you very much for being open and sharing. And with that, I'd like to thank you very much, Vinny, for joining us on the pod. It's been really insightful conversation as always. I really, really enjoyed it. For our audience who might want to kind of connect with you or follow you, what is the best way to do that? You're on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm usually, as weird as it is, I'm very low profile on LinkedIn, so you probably won't see much posts. But I'm very active in terms of replying messages, accepting people's invites. So yeah, if you want to chat, discuss, or even learn more about Adobe as well, send me an invite. Always open to conversations. But yeah, thank you as well for having me on your podcast. And said hopefully it's somewhat insightful for the audience that you're sharing this with. But yeah, it was a great time chatting with you as always.
Thank you very much. And with that, we will sign off.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Real pleasure. Real pleasure.